Thanks everybody for being here after lunch. I know how hard it is to speak after lunch. So first of all, I want to thank Alba Sincotro for inviting me here to your summer session. And it's not summer, but it feels like summer, right, with great weather. So thank you, Alejandro. Thank you, Marta. When we talked a few months ago, Alejandro and Marta asked me to do basically three things. One is to talk about innovation, which is what I've been doing for the last 32 years. The second one is to talk about what opportunities there could be in terms of innovation for young researchers like yourself. And the third one was to try to motivate you in regards to innovation. So in the light of your elevator pitches, I think I can just go home because you're already motivated. You already know a lot about innovation. So maybe we can go to the next session. So, okay, with that, let me talk a little bit about innovation and let me start a little bit about myself. Sometimes I hear that innovators are people that have been in different countries, people that have been in different sectors, people that move around. They don't always do the same thing. In my case, you can tell, I went to school at UCLA, then I got a master's in Bocconi. And maybe what's more interesting about my experience in innovation, first of all, it wasn't always called innovation. When I was at HP, it was called future product marketing. Then it was, when I was at GB Foods, it was, first it was strategic marketing. And then the people from marketing said, well, what about us? Are we strategic? Then it became open innovation. And then it became growth, so growth unit. This is what I did at InnoEnergy. So it's been evolving, but it's always about the same thing. It's about doing things in a different way. It's about tech transfer, which we will talk about. It's about really opening your mindset, which is the main thing I want to talk to you about today. And also, maybe a little bit unique is that I started in the private sector with 10 years at HP. Then I went to the public sector working for the city of Sant Cugat, which you can walk to. It's 2 minutes away. Back to the private world with GB Foods, and a lot of you have been talking about food and food startups, and it was really great to hear you today. And then I went back again to the public world with the city of Barcelona, where I was doing economic promotion and also a lot of innovation projects, a lot of startups with Barcelona Activa, and then back and forth again with, well, InnoEnergy, I will explain, is half private, half public. It's owned by, it's a company, but it gets a lot of money from Europe. So how easy can that be when you're really a company, but you get a bunch of funds to do great things every year? And with that, I also have collaborated with a few startups, and I'm also a mentor for startups, and I have 2 small companies and my own consultancy. And last but not least, I collaborate with Mobile World Capital, which is one of the cases that I want to talk to you about. We work with deep tech startups here in Barcelona. And basically, so different sectors, ICT digital, fintech, energy, agri-food, and also public sector, and a lot of work with startups and investors in different areas. And they all come down to be kind of the same. So strategic management, innovation strategy, change management. A lot of it is, so you go into a company and they say, okay, you're going to be the new innovation manager or the open innovation manager. And the first thing you need to change is the mindset of people. So at GB Foods, I was there for 4 years. And after a few years that I've left, they still call me and say, remember that project that we started? We're just doing it now. So people say that complete change of culture in a company takes at least 7 or 8 years, okay? If you have a CEO who, in my case, the CEO knew that the 3 CEOs before him only lasted 1 year. So how innovative are you going to be if you know your job is on the line in the next year or so? So here you have the innovation manager trying to push to do things radical, long-term, really, top innovation, and then you're really being pressed for sales. So it's not easy. And the same thing is true for technology centers and for academia, and also for the universities, which I've had the pleasure to really collaborate. And I'm a teacher at the EU Business School, Masters in Innovation, where I teach entrepreneurship. So enough about me. What do I want to talk about today? The main thing to me is people. People. Innovation is about people. Innovation is about challenges, is about problems, is about solving things. So how many of you think that you have a disruptive mindset? How many of you know about disruption or what it is? Okay, I knew that. I knew that. How many of you think that you have an entrepreneurial mindset? But you just showed it before lunch, so you do. Also, I want to talk a little bit about corporate disruption, or lack of it, and also entrepreneurial innovation. So sometimes the hardest thing you can do, or for me, is try to be entrepreneurial within a corporation. It might be easier to set up your own company. And then the toughest thing of all is trying to be innovative in the public sector, where people say to you, well, you've only been here for a month. Don't try to change things. Just sit here for 6 months, learn how we work here, and then you start working. And this is a true story. I'm like, what? No, I came here to change things, and I want to do things, and it's really, really hard in the public administration. It doesn't mean it's not possible. So to me, the best word when I'm trying to work, it's when somebody comes to me and says, Monica, this is impossible. And I go, say that again? I like that word. Impossible? Okay, let's work on it. Okay? And the main thing also for me is the role of startups, the role of investors in filling up a gap where companies or the universities or the public sectors where sometimes they cannot innovate because they don't have the budget, they don't have the resources, they don't have the time. It's not in their mindset. And startups play a really nice role. Spin-offs from tech centers play a really nice role because they are doing things to fill in that gap. Maybe HP is not ready to do 3D printing, but somebody's already printing hamburgers. And then maybe HP is buying that company along the line, and they're buying speed, right? So basically, this is something that I've been doing in the last maybe 5-10 years, and it's really interesting. I think especially young people creating new companies, trying to disrupt, also with impact for the society. I see that in my students. I saw that today here too, where you're trying to change the world, you're trying to do something not only to make money, and there's nothing wrong with making money, but it's also to change the world. And of course, we need that because us older people didn't do a great job, and now you need to really try to fix it. So that is going to need a lot of innovation too. So what about disruption? Why disrupt? So companies need to be open to disruption. Otherwise, it's going to run over them. What's going on? They have to adapt their strategy. They need to develop new tools, and they need to really try to work with startups. So at the frontier with corporate innovation and startups is when the fun starts. The startup is really quick. They want things done. The corporation is really slow. They don't have the budget. There's a finance manager trying to stop everything you try to do. Then it's the middle management. And unless you get really the buy-in from the CEO, it's really hard to do. He's nodding. So your worst enemy is usually the finance manager, followed by the operations manager. Can't do this here, Monica. It's not possible. It's never been done before. So if you're a corporate innovation manager, you have to be really resilient every day. Disruption, mindset. How does it work? So basically, your organization needs to be open, needs to be scouting, needs to be thinking about what's next, what's happening. You cannot be just inside of the company doing your day-to-day short-term thinking because things are going to happen. And a lot of companies don't see it coming until it's too late. And then they're Kodak and they're gone. So some of my friends from HP went to lead Kodak, and it just didn't work. They didn't have enough time to save it, right? So you cannot ignore what's going on. You cannot ignore what your mainstream customers need. So sometimes it's not even about your competition. So a lot of people were selling encyclopedias. And well, any of you remember going to get a video at Blockbuster? Too young. So a lot of these sectors, a lot of these industries are no longer there. And some of these managers of some of these companies never saw it coming because they were looking. I was talking to Alejandro today at HP. We always had our engineers looking at the dots per inch, puntos por pulgada. And it's 600, it's 800, it's 1200, it's 2000. I'm like, well, but the human eye doesn't see any more DPIs. Why did we go into new markets? What if we do graphic design? What if we do billboards? It's not always about the technology, which it is, but it's sometimes the basic technology will get you to great innovation. Okay, so I'm fully for technology, but sometimes it's not about doing the same thing faster, and faster. Because faster car, but the car cannot go faster because there are some laws that prevent it from going faster, but there are other things that people need. And these are just some examples of how sustaining innovation plays against disruptive innovation. And sometimes you think you're doing this new flavor for your yogurt, and it's not that. It's not a yogurt anymore, it's something else. So who's gonna be your substitute? Who is gonna substitute what you're doing today? And in your case is, how can your innovation play a role in companies? How can we do, and we'll talk about technology transfer. So Europe is really good at technology development and about doing the right research. Who? Okay, great. We're trying to get into, yeah, and probably. And so it's not only about the research, but it's the technology transfer. It's really making that happen. It's really making those industries grow. And of course, Europe does a great job. Others do a better job. And why do they do a better job? And we need to learn from them in that sense. Okay, so that's some of the projects that I work on. We're trying to do that. So, really interesting to do innovation on the Sustainable Development Goals, and a lot of you are doing that. I was working at Energy. We were doing sustainable energy, and that's really interesting, and we need to do that. This is an example of corporate innovation drivers. This was a study done by Dublin, a company called Dublin. They studied 1,000 companies over 10 years. Now, what do you think, and this goes in line with what I was talking about. Do you think the innovation comes from product performance, DPIs, product system, more the same, or does it come from other things? So basically, this is the investment the companies make. This is a kind of an old study, but it's still relevant. People are spending their money on DPIs, more DPIs, faster car. Where is the money coming from? Well, business model, and also customer delivery, channel, branding, communication, customer experience, getting closer to your customers. So here you're spending all your money on something that's finally not giving you the growth, it's not giving you the competitiveness. So I always keep this chart in mind. I've had this chart for a few years, and I really like to show it because it's really clear of what's going on. Now, what makes an entrepreneur? Is there anybody, maybe some of you will create your own spin-off, get some money from your universities or from your governments, and then create a startup. So it has to do with both individual skills, the skills I have, but also about the skills I have with my team. And the most important thing when I set up a company is who I work with, who is in my team. And basically, also keep in mind that only 10 or 20% of innovations succeed in the marketplace. So that already tells you that you need to be in a certain way. So entrepreneurship, it's about technology, but it's also about getting the capital, creating companies, creativity, opportunity, confidence, and who you work with. And basically, people who are entrepreneurial, they're born that way. I have 4 sons. One is a mechanical engineer, works for SEAT. Not your kind of entrepreneur. My second son, persistent. I need this, I want this, I want to do this. Passionate. This is what I want to do. I want to do sports management in soccer. And I'm like, are you sure that's a job? Yes. Well, that's what he's doing. Driven, inquisitive, people who are leaders, goal-oriented, just focus on one thing, soccer. That's what I'm going to do. Competitive and self-confident. The entrepreneurial mindset is the ability to recognize opportunities and the willingness to take a risk. So is this a good idea? Is this a good opportunity? These people see these opportunities, and they are also risk averse. They don't care. They're going to do it anyway. So, but then shouldn't you get a more stable job? And no, this is what I want to do. Creating my own company. I have no money, but this is what I want to do. Fine. Then go. So skills for success. These are people who are, it's all in the mindset. People who are have an ability to concentrate and focus deeply. Don't talk to me about anything else. People who are able to scan the horizon, understand the trends, have a foresight. People understand the market. They adapt, because this is not going to work, that's going to work. Or they're not just set on one thing, but they evolve. So today is this thing, tomorrow it's that thing. Trial and error. Didn't work, I do something else. They have social intelligence. They connect with people. They're constantly self-directed, and they're learning. So they're learning every day. They have critical thinking. They search for information, not usually on Wikipedia. So these are people that have connections. They call their friend. Hey, how about this? How about that? This technology, that investor. These are not people who are sitting in a library all day, okay? Their ability to distinguish between what's the noise and what's the signal. It's not the same thing. So they really have this clarity to understand what it means. Also, public problem solving, and cooperates through networks, which is kind of the same I just said. Again, determination, communication skills, persistence, leadership, strategic thinking, really patient. Okay, I don't care. I will keep doing it. I'm patient. Believe in themselves and believe in their project. Some of my friends from HP went on to start Music Match in the 90s. One of them, my boss, Dennis Mudd, he was the marketing manager. At one point, he lost his wife and his home. Then he got the money back because they sold it for $132 million. And he also got his wife back. So they're happily retired in San Diego. Not because of the money, they just kind of fixed it. So skills, public speaking, drive motivation, risk-taking, dedication, listening. Also being organized, so creative but organized, and optimistic. I mean, you're going to lose your house, you're getting a divorce, and you're still going on. You have to be really optimistic. Some of the myths about being an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur doesn't only mean creating your own startup. You can be an entrepreneur in a big corporation or in a city hall of a small town. Entrepreneurs are only interested in making money. We already decided that's not the case. Starting a business requires a lot of money. You can tell it's not the case. My friends, they actually asked me if I wanted to invest. At that point, I already had my 4 sons, and I didn't have any money. I thought about talking to my father, but internet was new, music on the internet, whatever. So that was the first time I saw a lot of money go by and didn't invest. But they got money from their friends, some friends. A disruptive idea is not the only way to start a business. It can be something simple sometimes. It doesn't have to be something completely disruptive. The bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. That's also not true. A good business plan is a guarantee of success. Even though I teach business planning, now we are using the Canvas, and Canvas is changing every day, and we do a lot of lean startup, trial and error. So things, you cannot be having a huge, long business plan and just working on that. So entrepreneurship is only for young people. Not true. A lot of people in 2008 lost their jobs, people my age, and they started new businesses. So a lot of it, sometimes about innovation, has to do with economic crisis. So if you see the economic crisis, those are the periods where the main innovations and the very successful companies started. And it's also not people that have nothing to lose. They have a lot to lose. So entrepreneurs and creativity, these people identify, evaluate, and develop opportunities they have. They visualize what they would like to accomplish, they think outside the box, and they are free from restraints. In my company at GB Foods, we spent, at the beginning of the Open Innovation, we did a lot of work on orthodoxies. This is some work that Gary Hamel was doing out of Harvard. You sit with some people and say, what are the orthodoxies that this company has? Meaning, unspoken truths. We don't do this here. This is not the way we do this. You're not from the food sector, so you, like, we don't do, we cannot lower our margins. We don't do frozen foods. We don't do, I remember we were here at the World Center having the first workshops, and then we got a phone call that they told us that the CEO had just been fired. So then this was the fourth one. And so then we said, so what should we do? Should we continue with the workshop? Yeah, let's go. And we were working on these orthodoxies for 4 different groups. They all came up with the same list of things. These are barriers that you put onto yourselves. We cannot do this. This is impossible. And all companies have their own orthodoxies. And when you're new in a company or in a tech center or in a city, they will make sure they tell you, this is the way we do things here. You don't understand. You come from a different sector. Listen to me. This is what you can do, and this is what you cannot do. So breaking free from these restraints will lead you to innovation. And innovation depends, and entrepreneurship depends on the support of other people and all the network relationships. In one of my companies, I was the ecosystems manager. And that was great. That's a great job. So it's like working with partners, putting people together, connecting the dots. You cannot do all of the innovation yourself. And in those workshops, we had 50% of people were from GB Foods, 50% were from other companies, Apple or a travel agency or whoever, to really make sure you bring a new mindset into people that always think the same and always do the same things. Again, so what are the benefits and downsides of being an entrepreneur? Well, the main one is being your own boss. That's great. Doing what you love, working your passion. I have some more on this. Independence, satisfaction, self-esteem, financial rewards. You control your own time. Usually these people spend all their weekday and holidays and weekends working on their company. Fulfillment, ownership, unlimited salary. Once you get a salary, because a lot of times startups, they start not getting a salary for many, many years or for many, many months. Downsides, you can feel lonely. There's a lot of obstacles. You never know if you're going to get the next round of investment. Failure, long hours. You may lose some friends, lose your partner, your spouse. Well, it goes with the type of life. When I was at Innoenergy is part of the EIT, the European Institute of Technology. Maybe some of you know about it. We had what we called, it was kind of like it was business creation. We had an incubator, an accelerator for startups on sustainable energy. So we had like 1,000 applicants, and we only got maybe 10 or 20 every year into the system. So we had all these applicants. We called it the highway because it was an accelerator. The opportunity assessment period was about how is your business plan? How is your idea? What's your roadmap? What's your technology enhancement? But the main thing was about the team. And we were following a methodology by this professor from Berkeley that was measuring exactly 17 competences of an entrepreneur or an entrepreneurial mindset. So we looked at these people and we did some surveys, some individual interviews, and it was about achievement motivation, entrepreneurial self-efficacy, tolerance for ambiguity, not knowing what's going to happen. If you cannot tolerate that, then fine, be a civil servant. That's a lot of people are, and it's a great thing to do. You always get your salary at the end of the month, and they cannot fire you. So it's great. Proactivity. Entrepreneurial alertness, knowing what's going on. Social desirability. And also about what you've done in your life, social capital, did they know about energy? Are they good at planning? Are they adaptable? Also about achievement, achievement orientation, initiative, network-based information seeking. This is what I was saying. They don't go into internet to search for something. They call their friends, or they call a friend of a friend, or they find out who is doing that, and they call them. Market service orientation, impact and influence, team leadership, teamwork, and collaboration. This was about the individuals. Great. So we did all these tests, and that was perfect, right? No, it wasn't perfect. Then we looked at the team, as a team. As a team, you also need to have what we called the conflict management, the shared leadership. So are they all thinking the same? Or is one going this way and the other one is going the other way? Is there empathy? Is there collaboration? Is there dominance? So we were doing some testing on some of these startups, and we found out that 2 people wanted to be the CEO. What? Okay, so the CEO is just one person. So one has to either do something else or cannot be in the company. Or the technology manager wants to be a CEO. Does a technology manager have the skills of a CEO? Most of the time, probably not. Or all these students came from ESADE Business School and they wanted to start a company, which, by the way, was really successful. And we said, who's going to be the CEO? Oh, we're all friends. No one's going to be the CEO. Like, what? No. So we did this test. And our friend Pablo was the CEO, and he's been really successful. So this is about having a shared vision, having compassion with another, and having the same goal. And when we talked about leadership, first of all, they start with transactional leadership, so somebody who gets people to do things. Then we went on into transformation leadership, so trying to transform the way we do things, a different type of leadership. And then at the end, it's empowering leadership. Of course, you don't want to start a startup with empowering leadership, letting everybody know whatever they want. So you need to go through all these phases to really be successful. So let me give you a couple of examples of what I just discussed. So I collaborate as a business development manager with Mobile World Capital. Mobile World Capital is a foundation that does a few things in terms of digital innovation and technology transfer. Basically, what happens between the Mobile World Congress in February and the Mobile World Congress the following month of February. Mobile World Capital Barcelona drives the digital progress in the community to improve people's quality of life. And it does so in 4 ways. One is innovation, and this is the project I work for. The Collider is a technology transfer program for the creation of startups that have something to do with the digital world. In terms of technology, we work to introduce change through digital technologies, 5G, 6G, what's going to happen, how is that going to create more opportunities. The new supercomputer with Barcelona what do you call it, BSC? Barcelona Supercomputing Center, BSC. Talent, and I'll talk about talent. What's going to happen with the digital skills? What's going to happen with people that are over 50 or 60 and their digital skills? Are they going to be left out of the market? Are they going to have jobs? Are they going to be understanding what's going on? So that's a big part of what we're doing. And society. It's what we call the Digital Future Society. It's a program to build an inclusive, equitable, and sustainable future in the digital age. So this is the kind of work that we do. But in the Collider, we are doing cutting-edge projects from all the technology centers in Spain. And then what we do is we do a call for technologies, technological scouting, and then it's not an incubator or an accelerator. It is what we call a venture builder. So we build the startups. So we have the technology, we have a technology manager, we have somebody in a university or a technology center that has a technology that the corporates have asked for, and then we find a CEO across the world. We find a CEO that has been a CEO, that she or he has done a successful, has a successful track of being a serial entrepreneur, and we put that person as a CEO of that new venture. Basically, as I said before, Europe does a very good job in scientific production, but not so much on technology transfer. So technology transfer is the great opportunity to generate wealth, and you can do that both ways. Is if you're an entrepreneur getting the right technology, if you're a technologist getting the right entrepreneur. And this is why we're here today, I think, is because we want to make sure in Europe we do a better job of going from research to actual big companies, what we call the unicorns, and more than that. So this is a little bit of information on how the US or the 28 countries in Europe are doing. Now, which are the technologies and the vertical sectors that we work on? So we work on the IoTs, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, blockchain, 3D, also the new materials, the frontier materials, graphene and all of this, 5G, which soon to be 6G, of course, devices and applications, and robotics and hardware. This is the kind of work that we do. These are the kind of technologies. And then in which sectors do we work? We work in health, energy, Industry 4.0, mobility, and digital food. This is the one I started because they hired me because of my previous experience. So we are doing a lot of work on digital food. And digital food is about sensors, is about knowing that the weather is going to change, and make sure you also you follow all the different steps of the supply chain for food and all of these different things. These are the projects from top-notch research centers and universities that applied for, this was, I think, last year. So 81 universities, 128 centers, technology centers, 42 centros cerca, and other. So the technology, we usually get it from the ecosystem in Spain, but then we get the CEOs all across the world. This is my part. This is where we try to get partners in the corporate world to not only give us a little bit of money, of course, but also help us with defining the challenges for innovation. Because innovation for innovation, if there's not a need, or at least an unmet need, doesn't make any sense, right? So you want to make sure these companies tell us what they're looking for. What are their needs? What are the breakthrough innovation that they are going to need? So we work with them defining the challenges. Every year we get about 350 challenges. We work on to 15. And from those 15, we create 15 companies with 15 CEOs, and we give them a little bit of money, 250K. But the main thing is we help them get in touch with these companies who ask for this and make sure they have a pilot test and they have a first client, because you will not get an investor to invest in your company unless you have some clients and somebody needs it and you've done a pilot test or 2 or 3. So these are the people that we work with in health and wellness, in Industry 4.0, energy, utilities and mobility, and also agri-food. From there, of course, we work with as an incubator or as an accelerator for our companies and ventures. As I said before, and this should have got at the beginning, about when we talk about talent and digital talent, more than 40% of the global workforce will be obsolete by 2030, and this is a huge issue that also Mobile World Capital is trying to solve. So a lot of people will be out of the workplace because companies are not finding enough people that can work on what they need, because what they need is really different than what they needed before, because the universities are not having enough graduates in what the things that I want. So big data analyst or whatever, graphene specialist. So a lot of people, 40% of people, we might be out of the workplace because we don't know how to do anything that they require, and because everything that we know how to do is no longer relevant. So how do we deal with this? This is a big issue. At Mobile World Capital, we try to emulate, or we try to work in an environment or an ecosystem like the Silicon tech startups, and we're close to where we're going to be at dinner at Pier 1. These are some of the projects that investors, these are the list of investors, have invested in. So, of course, we do a lot of pitching, like what we did today, and we try to get a lot of money for our companies. And at the Mobile World Congress, there's a lot of pitching. There's all kinds of pitching contests and all kinds of investors trying to get a good investment. These are some of the success cases in the different health, industry, and utilities areas. And I won't go into detail because I'm probably talking too much. And then the other example I want to talk about is the EIT. The EIT is the European Institute of Technology. It has different KICs, knowledge and innovation communities. I worked for InnoEnergy for 4 years. It's the one that works on energy. This is one of the newest ones, the urban mobility. It's based out of Barcelona. And basically they work on creating more livable urban spaces and creating labs in cities. So cities like Barcelona and 6 other cities in Europe are working on how to define a better mobility and how to decarbonize mobility and make Europe's a more competitive economy in terms of mobility. And so some companies, I think it was mentioned Michelin this morning, they're also doing their own challenges. They're also doing their own contests to get with the challenge of having 68% of the population that will live in urban areas in a few years. So how are we going to manage that? These companies are also looking for some responses. Casa SEAT here in Passeig de Gràcia, SEAT Volkswagen trying to also predict the future of urban mobility and change things, create new opportunities. And the EIT, as I said, so we have the EIT Urban Mobility, which is one of the new ones, EIT Climate, Digital, InnoEnergy, which is what I worked, EIT Health, that collaborates with Mobile World Capital, EIT Raw Materials, EIT Food, that I also worked a little bit on, and manufacturing. So these are the main challenges for the future of the European society and the European community. What they are doing is they're putting a lot of money into these incubators, accelerators. So what they do is 3 things, basically business creation, creating new startups. The other one is innovation projects. It's like the Horizon 2020 or Horizon Europe type of projects. And then they have masters and PhDs for students to study on these subjects and to then study and then create companies. How am I doing with time? Oh, okay. This is an example of EIT Urban. This is a startup meeting in Barcelona with the EIT Hub in Israel and Parc Científic of Barcelona. So this was early on this year, going global. So you have 6 or 7 cities on each EIT working in the same way. They all have their accelerator, they all have their master's program, they all have their innovation program, and they work together. 5, 6, 7 cities. So it's based on cities. Same thing, citizen-centric, focusing on citizen needs, insights, business anthropology, citizen behavior, and societal innovation. So this is about people. It's not about companies telling people what to do. It's about people telling companies what they need. And then companies need to react to that, and they need to innovate according to that. So this is about new business models, public policy, and also governance models in this case. And these are so for instance, this has the Innovation Hub Central, which I think it's in Prague. The north, I think it's in Sweden. South, it's in Spain, and the west, I think it's Germany. Well, I'm not sure, but and also I think they are in Denmark too. So it's one single ecosystem for startups, global and local calls, and common resources, tools, and KPIs. And basically, the way it's defined, you don't want to replicate the wheel. You don't want people to, you want people to learn from one another, and it has a big impact the way they work with partnerships. So getting everybody into an ecosystem on a common goal and then work on that. And also the partners, the think global, work local, and also the cities innovation structures. It's what is making them really, really successful. So before we go into questions, disrupting innovation, it's all about people, it's all about talent. So you want to make sure you go through some disruptive innovation to get new ideas, new players, new ways to do things. And the main thing, the key to all, is to build a dream team. Also for you, in whatever you're doing, if you're setting up a startup or a group of research, or you're creating a spin-off, it's all about the people. It's all about you. So thank you. I don't know if there's any questions.
Thank you, Monica, for the very nice presentation and motivating one. So,
my first question, did I manage to motivate you after lunch? No, not really. Yeah. Okay, him.
Can you?
Yes.
What are the 3 most successful startups that you worked with over the last 5 years? And what are they doing?
So the one company that in the last 5 years? Okay. There was this one called Shuttle. Shuttle. It's SHOTL. This guy, Gerard Martret, he's now 46. I met him when he was 23. They just they started a new company, Shuttle, 5 years ago. And they just went out the stock exchange in New York 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
What are they doing?
They do innovation in mobility, shared mobility.
What does it mean in reality?
Well, it means that instead of having buses every 3 minutes with empty buses going through the towns, they adapt the type of car, which is usually an electrical vehicle, to the demand, on-time demand. And they just got bought by an Egyptian company because they are going to go global. So they're now called Swivel. So from Shuttle to Swivel. That's one of them. Then second one, let me think. The ones well, of course, these people that work at Music Match, they have been developing other venues through the years. And then from Mobile World Capital, it's Deep Detect. This company detects, for instance, if you have a manufacturing site for food, it detects any kind of particles, for instance, hair or a little stone. So sometimes these things go into the production line, and you find this, you go to the supermarket, and you can, and this saves millions to the food industry to detect these really small particles. It's called deep detection. You can find it in Mobile World Capital. And I don't know, what else? A lot of them. There's so many of them, and they're going to create new ones, so it's going to be even more. Yeah. Any questions? Any questions from the researchers?
No, because I said record.
That was a really nice talk.
Thank you.
It's an easy question on the Collider. You mentioned you give out 250K bursaries, grants, whatever it is. Do you expect equity in exchange for that?
Yes.
Or okay, it's an equity deal.
Yeah, it is. And usually I think it's, well, Adino Energy I think it was 7 or 10%. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that.
How much?
And 7 or 10%.
Okay, it's not too scary.
It's not too scary, but they wanted to go up, and then they got like a mutiny because people were saying, oh, okay, what are you giving me? What are you giving me? So it's that kind of situation.
Okay.
For the so Mobile World Capital is a foundation that gets money from the Spanish government, the Catalan government, and the city of Barcelona, plus 2 of the big sponsors. So it's not so much about the money, which it always is, but they do get some equity, and I think it's along those terms. It's not huge.
And do you ever open any of the companies to things like crowdfunding or these kind? Yeah. Okay. Through which platform? That's too detailed.
Good question, because it's in my teaching notes, because I was with my students, we were looking at those, but give me an example.
I only know the French ones.
I'll share it with you, because I have a list of the new one.
Okay, cool.
I can't remember right now.
Brilliant.
Any questions from you guys and girls? Good.
Hello, thank
Hi.
you, first of all, for the nice talk.
Thank you.
You mentioned that, for example, as a PhD student, or so it could be difficult to be innovative. For example, if you're working in university and they tell you, "Oh, we always did it like this," so it might be difficult. My question now is, do you have a good tip how, as a PhD student, for example, you could still be managed to be as innovative as possible? And do you think that at some point, for example, if you're persistent enough to withstand any doubts, if there's any point to be too persistent, for example?
Well, if you really believe in what you're doing, surround yourself with the right people and keep evolving. So fast, I didn't talk about it, but fast prototyping. So you start with something, you evolve it, you continue, and you go on. So people that start their sentences with, it might be difficult, some doubts, the problem is. So change the mindset too. Of course, it's going to be great. And so I'm not saying that you're going to be a nonsense person, but if you believe in what you're doing, surround yourself with good people, get help. Get in, I didn't also mention, if you're in an accelerator, and one of these accelerators or incubator, chances are you're going to go 7 times faster. You're going to get some money, you're going to get some mentoring. Don't do it alone. So being persistent, yes, but in a smart way. You surround yourself with the right environment, surround yourself with the right people, ask for help, get an investor. A lot of investors, I didn't also mention, I work for the European Business Angel Network in Brussels, and I still collaborate with them. Some of these business angels, which are the earlier investors that will work with you and give you some money, these are usually people who are already retired, who, like my friends Dennis and Jim, they already made the money, and what they do is they invest some of their money, but also invest a lot of their time, and they're mentoring business angels. So they will help you get started. The universities will help you get started. The technology centers, a lot of times, they have their own innovation. And so as a PhD researcher student, I'm sure you have a big ecosystem of innovation, startup, investors, and things like that. I'm sure that Alejandro can help you on that. Any more questions? Yes.
Yeah, I have just a small remark because you mentioned that innovative entrepreneurial people don't research first into Wikipedia, but they ask around, they ask people. And I think what researchers or scientific people tend to do is go as far as they can on their own with the internet and with just the non-human sources. And just when we are stuck, then we go and venture out and ask maybe a colleague. And probably, or it may be that as an entrepreneur, it would be better to use the human factor much earlier.
Right, because see, that's a very good question. In a startup, you have a lot of roles. So you don't want the financial manager to be creative, right? And to be risk-free. Or you don't want the technology manager to not know about the technology. When we talk about the business entrepreneur, that's a different thing. So you want to have the different roles played by different people. Your role is probably on technology. It's about really getting it right. It's about really developing the solution. And it's really different, right? And what I see is a lot of the business schools are the way they find their people, the students. It's probably the wrong way, because what they do is they try to find the people with the highest academic scores. And sometimes the business, you have a lot of examples, right, of people that didn't even finish the university because they were too bored, right? Steve Jobs, Bill Gates. So even the way we screen our future entrepreneurs is probably wrong, because if you were to look at those 17 competences, when you look at the new business students, you would probably have a different way to screen the new students, right? For business, I'm not saying for technology, I'm not saying for finance. So you need to get And of course, entrepreneurs can also look at the internet to find information, but it's not usually how they move. They don't wait until something is perfect. They ask somebody who knows better. See, I'm not saying that they don't care about the information. It's just the way they search for that information. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I think we have one more question.
Yes, thank you very much for an interesting presentation. And as I want to understand clearly, what is the essential difference between this innovation, this big word, and simply coming up to the market with a new product?
Okay, very good. So sometimes some of the companies I work with, especially the small ones, I remember this company called Lakeway. They do utensils for cooking or for microwave cooking. And the CEO used to say, well, look, I don't care about all this innovation, open innovation, all these workshops that you do. Some of the ideas we got at GB Foods with Fundación Alicia, which was one of the structures created by Ferran Adrià, one of our famous chefs. This guy, the CEO, was getting those ideas, creating a new product, and he said, best test the market. So he wasn't even doing any market testing. He was just launching that product into the market, and then we'll see. That's the best test. If people buy it, it's great. If not, then on to the next thing. So sometimes, what is the difference between doing what we call very incrementally? So you find that in a big corporation, it's easy to do something small. So, and I always play this stupid example, and then one day the person next to me was from Danone, and I think she liked it. But when you talk about strawberry flavor, that's the big innovation of this year. We're going to have this yogurt, but in strawberry flavor. That's incremental. The disruptive innovation is that we're not going to sell any more yogurt. We're going to create our own ice cream places, and they're going to be in the middle of the cities. That's disruptive. So what is the balance between disruptive and incremental? So if you ask the finance manager, incremental goes. Disruptive? Oh, I don't think so. We need to talk to the CEO. We need to make some investments. For instance, at GB Foods, we found a salt substitute. It was a good salt. It was in South Korea. We had to make some investment, start the factory, this and that. Never happened. Right? We did some technology scouting, so no, it's going to be too hard, too much investment. We're going to have to change the production line. So there's all these things are of course true, and they're happening, and it's all about the balance between investing for the future and having good results today. So if you're able to, as a CEO in a big company, think about 10 years from now. In the public sector, you're the mayor. 10 years from now, you're not going to be the mayor. Why should you care, right? So what is the balance between doing the right thing for the future and investing, not only money, but efforts, or doing something incremental, a little bit of innovation, good enough, right? So you need to find that balance. The hard part is the disruption, for sure. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Monica, again.